Hello YouTubes! Welcome back. Today I've been busy out in the yard, I've been busy in the shop getting everything ready, the display ready for the kids to come for trick-or-treating on Halloween night. So I'd like to take kind of a little break and I want to bust out my brain in a jar. I thought I'd show you guys this. I got a video on my channel of it working, but I never really showed you guys how I built this thing, or really got to explain much about it. I mean, it's an easy build, anybody can do this thing. It may take you a little while to assemble the parts. I mean, eBay is a great source, Etsy. I mean, I started with just a bunch of junk I had. You can go on eBay and buy lots of, stove knobs, amplifier knobs, old gauges, milliamps, voltmeters. I work on classic cars, so I've got old temp gauges and just all kinds of stuff. I mean, you could use barometer gauges, a nice big copper one, or nice big brass barometer gauges. I mean, anywhere you can pick up old gauges and old junk, stove knobs, wherever you got old appliance knobs, anything will work. Just hoard that stuff up. And then it's a plywood cabinet and a bunch of garbage, and I'll show you guys what I did. But first, before we start building this thing, getting it operational, I'm going to flip it around the back and I'll show you what it looks like on the back side of this thing and how I made all the lights work and everything. Okay, YouTube, I got this cabinet flipped around. It was just a little scrap wood box that I made, nothing simple, L-shaped, that was my design. I've got a little panel, I got a couple of screws in that I pop off. And it's pretty simple stuff. I've got a couple little holes on the bottom, notch in case I want to add some stuff to this thing later. I started with just a stomp extension cord where you just step on it to turn everything on, and that's what powers a fish tank pump. My daughter won one of those little goldfish at the county fairs and it died off, so we had a leftover pump. The pump, everything we needed was here, so it was free to me, but you can buy these on Amazon real cheap. They're like anywhere 10 to 15 bucks. Some of them have two outputs, like this one. You really only need one, so the one was a real simple one. It's a lot cheaper too. And I just kind of ran that through and ran my hose out and under the brain. I siliconed it to the wall and put the knob on the other side, and I actually use it as a functioning knob so I can turn the bubbles up or down. All the lights are wired in. Are Christmas lights. I just took some of these old gauges I had after I cut the sheet metal in the front, I drilled a hole in the bottom, and I just inserted a Christmas light. That's all I had to do. I popped a Christmas light in there, so when I turn the lights on, all the lights light up, and the Christmas light comes on, and that's what gives you your light in the gauge face. So really simple. I used old LED Christmas lights, and that's how I like the whole thing. Everything comes on at one time. Like I said, I've got the... Oh, that's all zip tied together. Okay, I've got the pump jacked up to maximum volume, so they're wide open, and I control my bubbles through the knob. The inside's pretty easy. I just blacked out the bottom. There's my little fish tank light that cycles through red, blue, green, yellow, whatever. And then the excess Christmas lights I just stuck under the jar because they'll be lit from underneath. I've got some little cleats in there. The jar sits on this so it doesn't move around. And the last thing I did to the case was I've got this thing sitting on rubber stoppers I got from Amazon. Just because this thing hums a little bit with the fish tank pump, you don't want it walking off the table or anything like that and smashing a glass, glass jar full of water and stuff. So it's a simple concept. It's all junk, little leftover odds and ends I had. And it's just an old scrap plywood cabinet that I made up with just old junk I had. So it's a real simple fix. You can build your own cabinet. You could use an existing speaker, or you can use an existing old appliance cabinet or something like that. It's real easy to pick something up to start with, or you just make your own from scratch. So I'll flip it around and we'll start working on this thing. Okay, YouTube, so when I started this project, I started with the jar. I found me a nice jar at, I think it was Joann's, for like 10 bucks on clearance. It came with this nice little cork lid that I went ahead and drilled into for air and for the water spout. I went on Amazon and found me a cheapo brain. I'm really hoping to get a silicone brain one day, but this little cheapy guy from Amazon will work. It just depends on the size of your jar. I also was on Amazon when I built this, and I bought just an acrylic dowel rod. I think it's 1 inch, and I bought some smaller 1/4 inch ones. The eyeballs I actually even got off Amazon. I think the eyeballs for the pair were, I want to say $12, $13, something like that. The acrylic rod was a couple of bucks. The 1/4 inch acrylic rods were a couple of bucks. All I did was drill in and crazy glue these guys into place, and these will be my eyeballs. You can see they sit right down in the bottom of the jar. And the acrylic rod is freestanding, so you really don't see it that much in the water there. The bubbles kind of hide it, but it's better than using like something steel. So all I do is drill a hole in the bottom of the brain. It was 1 inch, and I wedge this guy down in there. And then I set him in the thing. I'm going to have to put the eyes in first, and I'll set the brain on top. And we'll get this loaded in there, and I'm going to get him popped up here on his stand, because then I got to put this on the bottom. I made this little piece out of a belt because it has a nice a nice straight edge on the bottom, and it covers any of the light that bleed through from the Christmas lights. And it's just an old carburetor spring. So like I said, man, you guys can use thrift store stuff, junk, anything. Any little bits and pieces you have laying around works great. So I'm going to go ahead and get this guy up in here. I'm going to drop my eyeballs in. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and we'll set our collar on. That'll fill the little space underneath it, so we get a nice even thing. And plus it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and get the brain on here, in the jar on the stem, and then we're going to move on to the air pipe. Okay, YouTubes. So I went ahead and I took a piece of pipe, a couple of pieces together, made a couple of elbows, screwed everything together. I took my air line from the pump that's inside the box, ran it through the air line. I just pull it up like that. We're going to set this down. I got to run it through the lid. And that's a steel pipe, so it's heavy. I got to be careful. So this will kind of hold the lid into place so I don't have to worry about it. And then I've got one little bubble stone that I bought. Again, you can buy them on Amazon. You can buy whole packages. I started with the smaller one, but I decided this year I'm going to bump up and try the bigger one. So we just pop that guy on the end of the bubble hose, and we'll drop him in the jar, and that'll create our bubbles up under the brain, the eyeballs. So once I get him in place, I'll fish him in there. We'll move him around later with a long stick because he's really kind of a pain to get to. So now that I've got my jar in place, alright, this drops down in. This will hold the jar and keep it from moving around. And then I've got a couple of just self-tapping 10mm screws I'm going to run down in here. I need to re-rust these guys again because I changed out my screws. So I'm going to run these down and tighten these up. I'm going to fish this little guy into place with a long stick. And then I think we'll be ready for some water. And we got to get our electrodes in this thing too. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten these guys down. And we come back, we're going to be filling this thing with water and put our brain electrodes in. Okay, YouTubes, we got our brain in, we got it centered, we got our little air hockey puck right there. I went ahead and used a knob for the pipe. That is actual pipe, so it's steel. This is just a knob I got from Hobby Lobby for, I don't know, $2 or clearance or something like that. So I just put a little tack weld on there, welded it in. The filler knob, because you're going to need some air to get through this thing. Once you start pumping air into this, you're going to need some room for air to escape. So I just took a little knob from Hobby Lobby. I think I got them the same day. Put a little wooden dowel in there and screwed it through, and that'll be my fill point. And I thought I would go like little glass knob, looking more like Victorian and more sci-fi. So that'll be our filler neck. Again, the rest is all old gauges and stuff like that. I bought off of eBay. The metal front I made, you could easily make your own out of, and that's super thin sheet metal. You can bend it by hand, or you could use Luan board and cover it in tin foil or a silver leaf, or you could use the top of a plastic bin and cut it out and bend it. Again, they're just all junk stuff that I got off of Amazon, and I have went ahead and I stained the box, but I did not seal it because I wanted to darken over time. Same with the steel. I went ahead and scuffed it all down when I cut it, but I did not seal it, so over time it will rust, and I can add more rust to it if I want. The buttons, these guys were off of Amazon, super cheap. The little tags I had done, I'll explain those. We get it on the table over there, we get this thing working. But the tags are from a trophy company. You can get them on Amazon now. But for the sci-fi look, I really wanted electrodes in this brain. So in this plastic brain, I've got 2 holes drilled, and these are just old furnace thermocouples. They were $2 or $3 off Amazon. So I've got holes in the brain. I'm going to go ahead and insert right through here, and I'm going to go ahead and just use a simple wing nut to lock down our electrode, so it looks like electricity is going through there and keeping this brain alive. So I'm going to go ahead and feed these guys through. Here's the fun part, trying to find my holes in the brain again, and then trying to steady it while I'm in there. Alright, there's one. Alright. And again, once I put the water in, I'm going to have to wait a little bit because it's going to take time for the big cavity in there to fill with air. So I'm going to go ahead and run these over, screw them down to their little tops where they belong, and then we're going to fill this sucker up with water and kick it on, man. Alright guys, I got our water. I got our knitting needles stabbed into the brains. If I didn't mention that before, these are just knitting needles I found at the thrift store. And the thermocouples are attached with just a little bit of dry brushing of turquoise paint to look like copper oxide, like the Statue of Liberty. So we're going to fill this thing up. Alright, there we go. You don't want to go all the way to the top. I want to leave it like an inch from the top so that I can have room for the bubbles to expand. And I'm going to have to wait a little while so that that brain cavity that I drilled through fills up with water, because it's going to be full of bubbles for a little bit. So I'm going to stop just above the brain, and then I'll top it back off when the brain absorbs all the water up in the cavity, so you can see it's bubbling up through the little knitting needles now. But I do use the 2 different color eyes. I thought that was extra creepy. So that's a little bit of an extra creep factor. Again, I don't care if the water spills on it. I want that cabinet to age down and stay dark, so I'm never going to seal it. Now, because this is heavy, you know, a gallon of water is probably 8 pounds. The pipe does hold the jar in place. If a little kid goes to bump it or knocks it, the cork holds the bottle and the pipe holds it down. So that way, there's no issues about this thing jumping. And like I said, I use rubber feet, vibration-free feet for the bottom of this thing, so it won't walk off a table. And now with this stuff, you can also put fish tank conditioner in there. It'll be just fine after about 30-40 days. You want to see algae on it if you let it run that long, which last year I did. So I'm going to go ahead and top off the water again. And I think the one last little thing I want to add to this guy, before we cap it off, put his little knob in there. I'm going to use a little bit of red dye. I like that pink kind of amniotic fluid feel on this thing. And red dye is really strong, the red dye is. So I'm just going to add a little bit in there. There we go. It should turn to pink because that's not that much dye. Alright. Alright. Alright, that's already doing its work. It's going to give us a nice pink color. I'm going to go ahead and plug the cork right in. And I think we're ready to put this thing in place and fire it up, man. Let's see what this thing looks like on full blast. Okay, YouTubes. We got a little bit of mad science going on here. I got a little scene set up. This is where the table's going to be on Halloween night when the kids come in. I'm going to have a big body laid across this table under a sheet with a big bloody stump of a head. It's going to be Dr. Julius Hargrave. That's what my haunt's called, the Hargrave Academy of Science and Lore. He was an old school demonologist, a cryptid hunter, and he wanted to keep his brain and his eyeballs to be transferred later on in life. It says interred, Dr. Julius Hargrave interred 1918 property of Hargrave Academy Science and Lore. Those labels I had made up, they weren't cheap. They cost me like 50 or 60 bucks, but I got a bunch of them made up at the same time. It says amniotic temp. It's called a LOCU, which is a live organ containment unit. I got voltage input, radiation levels, oxygen fluid levels, all these dummy gauges and stuff. So let's kick this thing on and show you guys what it looks like. And that's on low. Now I've got that air pump behind this knob. I actually made this functional and used an old piece of a clock gauge that I had when I made my clock of doom, so I can turn my bubbles up if I want to full blast. And again, I think this is an old amplifier gauge off of something that I got in a lot off eBay. So I think it's super cool. You want to run it for a couple hours a day to keep the algae away. But man, I think it fits in perfect. It's going to be great this year for my mad scientist team in the garage when the kids come in. So let me kill the lights. I'll show you guys what it looks like in the dark. That's just awesome. I love that so much. I mean, I love it. And just like I said, it's Christmas lights. LED Christmas lights. This thing could be on for 20 hours and never get hot or never get warm. I just drilled through the gauges for the lights. I think it's super cool. I love the ambient lighting. It's just cheap gauges and garbage, man. You guys could easily put this together yourself with just a bunch of thrift store crap and stuff you could probably dig through your garage and find. But I just love that glowing color under the eyes. So cool. And again, just plastic knobs from Amazon. Alright, but that is my brain in a jar that I built last year. I'm real happy I got a chance to show you guys. Let me kick the lights on. Alright, YouTubes, that's my brain in a jar. I wanted to share that with you guys, give you a closer look than the little video I had on my channel prior. I got a lot to do before Halloween, so I'm going to move on to my next project. I got to make a body for this table, so when the kids come in, I'm going to have their treat bags laid in. They're going to have to walk up to this table to get their treat bags. So if you guys get a chance, go check out my brothers in the Trio of Terror, Vic over at Monster Misfits, and Dave at the Weird Kid Show channel. You guys, we are just cranking out Halloween nonstop, getting ready for the season, even Halloween and beyond. So keep looking for us. We're going to still be doing content all through the winter time and building all the way through the winter for next year. So I hope you guys dug my brain in a jar. Maybe you guys have any questions how to make some junk like this, just drop them in the comments. Until I see you guys again, keep it evil, always. Thanks for watching.